Wow, what a nice blazer.
Thank you for being here.
You ready for this?
How do you?
Oh, no small talk. Let's get into it.
I've heard about the families that in Mexico that they get separated at the border. Right. If you were to be president, what would you do about that?
I would stop it, because as far as I'm concerned, you should never separate children from their parents.
So I want to be the president of the United States,
Fantastic.
Just like you.
Yes, good. Now, why do you want to be president?
Because I'm looking up to you, and I've always looked up to President Barack Obama, and I've always wanted to say that I'll be the second or third African-American president, yes. And I've always put that dream in me.
And so it shall be.
How will you keep bad guys from having guns?
We can't let people have guns who are not responsible. What do you think the rules should be?
You should run a test to see if they're going to be responsible with the guns or not.
That is excellent, and that's called background checks.
Well, I go to a really awesome public school in Ames, but I know that some public schools across the country are kind of struggling. Would you do anything to help?
We need to invest in our public schools because it is people like you, our young, brilliant leaders, thrive and do really well in public schools. Tell me what you're worried about.
Global warming and school shootings.
Yeah.
How are you going to help stop climate change?
By 2035, we'll have electric school buses. By 2045, we'll have a clean economy. Here's the motivation. You. You motivate me.
What's your plan to make America nice again?
As president, that I actually am going to always reward people for being nice, not being mean. I think we are so much stronger when we are unified. And so I plan on unifying our country around the things we have in common, that no matter what our race, no matter what our gender, that we all have so much in common.
There's a lot of great teachers. How would you try to get them paid more?
You just asked a question that teachers around the country are asking. A federal investment in closing the teacher pay gap it'll be the first time in our nation's history. They're not paid as much as they're worth. I want to have a nurse in every public school. I want to have a social worker in every public school. I have a plan to also pay teachers more. Like, I don't like mean people.
I don't like Donald Trump.
Yeah, me either. You know why I feel like that? I think that the people who are the strongest people are like, if they see somebody fall, they go to help pick them up. Like, that's a sign of strength. It's actually stronger to be kind than it is to be mean. And that's a winning argument every time. Why do you think we should have background checks?
Because if you don't know how they're going to react with guns, maybe they'll kill somebody.
I'm going to pass what you said on to a lot of adults, and I'm going to ask them to listen to you and what you just said, because you are so right, and you are such a great leader for saying that.
Kamala!
Hello. Hi.
Hey there!
Oh, hi, you're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
You see a lot when you're the firstborn. I saw my mother and how she worked hard, and she was full of pride and would never want anyone to ever pity her. She never complained about anything. But I also knew how she suffered. I knew how she stayed up late at night trying to figure things out. She was a brown woman with an accent. I remember going into, a store and us being followed. I remember how people would look at my mother and make certain assumptions about her intelligence or her capacity or her right to belong. As the eldest child, you see this. My mother was very well aware that she was raising two black girls to be two black women. And she did that instilling in us pride in our culture and cultures, always knowing that we would face all kinds of obstacles, but she never let us believe that anything could get in the way of our dreams or pursuits. My sister Maya is 2.5 years younger than me. So at the age of 2.5, I was told, look after your sister. And it is something that is very much a part of just who I am, which is that look after those who need your support or need your help. And that has been what has motivated me to do the work I've done, to look after and protect people. So I just had a frank and constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I told him that I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah. From when I was a young girl, collecting funds to plant trees for Israel, to my time in the United States Senate and now at the White House, I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel. I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it does so matters. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization. On October 7, Hamas triggered this war when it massacred 1,200 innocent people, including 44 Americans. Hamas has committed horrific acts of sexual violence and took 250 hostages. There are American citizens who remain captive in Gaza. Sagi Deko Hen, Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, Idan Alexander, Keith Siegel, Omer Nutra, and the remains of American citizens Judy Weinstein, Gad Haggai, and Itai Hen are still being held in Gaza. I have met with the families of these American hostages multiple times now, and I've told them each time they are not alone, and I stand with them. And President Biden and I are working every day to bring them home. I also expressed with the Prime Minister my serious concern about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians. And I made clear my serious concern about the dire humanitarian situation there, with over 2 million people facing high levels of food insecurity, and 500,000 people facing catastrophic levels of acute food insecurity. What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent. Thanks to the leadership of our President, Joe Biden, there is a deal on the table for a ceasefire and a hostage deal. And it is important that we recall what the deal involves. The first phase of the deal would bring about a full ceasefire, including a withdrawal of the Israeli military from population centers in Gaza. In the second phase, the Israeli military would withdraw from Gaza entirely, and it would lead to a permanent end to the hostilities. It is time for this war to end, and end in a way where Israel is secure, all the hostages are released, the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can exercise their right to freedom, dignity, and self-determination. There has been hopeful movement in the talks to secure an agreement on this deal. And as I just told Prime Minister Netanyahu, it is time to get this deal done. So to everyone who has been calling for a ceasefire, and to everyone who yearns for peace, I see you and I hear you. Let's get the deal done so we can get a ceasefire to end the war. Let's bring the hostages home, and let's provide much-needed relief to the Palestinian people. And ultimately, I remain committed to a path forward that can lead to a two-state solution. And I know right now it is hard to conceive of that prospect, but a two-state solution is the only path that ensures Israel remains a secure Jewish and democratic state, and one that ensures Palestinians can finally realize the freedom, security, and prosperity that they rightly deserve. And I will close with this then. It is important for the American people to remember the war in Gaza is not a binary issue. However, too often the conversation is binary, when the reality is anything but. So I ask my fellow Americans to help encourage efforts to acknowledge the complexity, the nuance, and the history of the region. Let us all condemn terrorism and violence. Let us all do what we can to prevent the suffering of innocent civilians, and let us condemn anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate of any kind. And let us work to unite our country. I thank you.